6 Spartan Imperial Mansion. That's our office. It's converted to like a commercial kitchen and 3 or 4 cubicle spaces. And it's called the Death Star. If you want to take over the world, you got to have a Death Star.
Nice.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, those things take rattlesnakes out. So like, I think just some of them are like, dude, I want to hang out and I'm not scared of you. If you are a business from Chicago who owns 50 houses here on Airbnb, that's the fucked up part, man.
That's a problem.
I love that one. End restricted zone. And then on the other side it says, begin restricted zone. And dude, I've watched cops pull up to this fence and flip a Yui because they don't want to come through here, man. It is unbelievably effective.
Driving over to see Seth, who is the owner of Cliffhanger's Guide Service in Joshua Tree. They're pretty much the biggest climbing guide service for rock climbing, things like that, in Joshua Tree. And he invited me over to his house for the interview, which I'm really excited about. And apparently he's got a very unique property called the Sethspool, or Sethspool. And yeah, I'm excited to get over there and check it out. It looks really interesting. So, and he seems like a real interesting guy, so it should be a great interview. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, Seth Zaharias, man, thanks so much for being on the Highway 62 podcast, and you're also the first guinea pig here for a remote recording out at a cool location, man. So thank you so much for having me out to the Sethpool.
You are more than welcome, and welcome to the Sethspool.
The Sethspool. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
How did you ever come up with that unique name for your property here?
Literally, man, I bought this property for pennies back in 2009, and I was young. I was like 24. So my mom flew out to help me with the title transfer of the property. And for a property of that kind of money, I mean, we're talking about $9,000, right? Like nothing.
That's upsetting a whole lot of people that bought property. In the
I'm sure. I apologize. The old school got it all before you got here. But literally, my mom flew out to help me with the quick claim deed. And right now, you know, it's all weird ass artsy property. But back then, it looked pretty tweakered out.
Yeah.
And literally, my mom painted. She went to the hardware store the day after I purchased the property and painted the sign. And it's been on the front of my house for 20 years now. The sign right here, in fact.
Yeah, cool.
So totally.
That's amazing. And so, where are you originally from?
Child of divorced hippie parents.
Okay.
California, Montana, Indiana, Tennessee.
All over.
And I've lived in Josh Tree for, I guess, going on 24 years now. So I've lived in Josh Tree longer than anywhere else in my whole life. This is home for sure.
What brought you out to this area originally?
Rock climbing, man.
Okay.
Outside of the whole music artist scene of Josh, this is an iconic international destination for rock climbing. And in '99, I blew out my knee snowboarding up in Montana. I couldn't snowboard anymore. I was like, oh, dude, what am I going to do with myself? And I'd been to Josh Tree once before in like '97 or '98. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go spend a winter in Josh. And, kind of the rest is history.
Yeah.
So.
Right on. What was kind of the impetus to start the guide service out here? You're the owner-operator of Cliffhanger Guide Service.
In partnership with my wife, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Who's amazing, for sure. We run the business together. But yeah, man, I've been involved in the Joshua Tree tourism economy since 1999. My first job in this town was washing the showers at Coyote Corner for who knows how much an hour. But my second job was working at Crossroads Cafe, washing dishes.
Oh, okay.
And then about 2000, 2001, I started breaking into the guide scene. Worked for a number of different guide services in the area. And right around 2010, as I got a little older, into my mid-30s, kind of realized this was my career path. This is what I'm going to do. And it's probably not going to be viable or sustainable if I'm working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Plus, I had my own kind of crazy vision of what it means to run a successful guide service in Josh. And yeah, we just kind of launched. We essentially had about 10 grand in savings, and we just launched out into the great unknown on Cliffhanger Guides. And 13 years later, we are basically the largest guide service in Josh at this juncture. So whatever we're doing, it seems to be working. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about the guide service. Like, exactly what you guys do for people that, aren't into the climbing scene, don't know what it's about. I'm sure for tourists coming into town, that aren't coming to do climbing, it might seem intimidating. If you've never done it before, give us kind of the rundown of how the business works and, what you do for people.
Awesome. Absolutely, man. So yeah, we've got a shop in downtown Josh Tree right behind Coyote Corner. Typically we meet our guests there, get everybody outfitted with, harness, shoes, helmet, and all the safety equipment they're going to need for the day, and release forms, all that liability paperwork stuff. And then we head up into the park, and what typically pays our bills is like 2 to 5 person half days. And we specialize in private high-end trips in Josh National Park, meaning we don't do any large format group stuff.
Okay.
Like our trips are 2 to 5 people, probably 85% of the time. And our max ratio is 4 climbers to 1 guide. So if you've got 4 climbers, we'll have 1 guide. As soon as you cross over to 5 climbers, we'll send out 2 guides. And take people up to the park, depending on their background, we'll sort of start in different areas. If they're, first-time climbers, we definitely start on the bunny slopes, make it really, mellow and beginner-friendly. And if they've, done a bunch of climbing in the indoor gyms, which is also a big part of our market, then we'll take them on some harder stuff and kick their asses a little bit.
Gotcha. So somebody can come out who's never done any climbing of any kind before.
Absolutely, man. As you know, the tourism market here in Joshua Tree has just exploded in the last decade. So, during the holidays, we're talking Thanksgiving, Christmas, President's Day, spring break, probably 80 or 90% of our clientele is beginner climbers. And they're just they just want the Disneyland ride. They're in Josh. And they're like, what do I do in Joshua Tree? And rock climbing is a big piece of the culture here. So we sort of facilitate their entrance into that community and into that experience.
Yeah. And when we were getting here and setting up a little bit, you were telling me you just got home. So you live part-time up in the Sierra Nevadas as well?
Yeah. In fact, the old schoolers will, to this day, call me a tourist, even though I've been here for 24 years. And don't hate me for this, but 24 years I've never spent a summer here.
Gotcha.
As somebody who works in the tourism economy, historically there was no reason to be here in the summer. These days, the tourism economy is getting a little more sustainable year-round. But if I've got an option to be somewhere else and not be in 110, 115, 120 degree weather, why would I do that?
Yeah.
So my wife Sabra's got a place up in Bridgeport that her grandfather built back in the 30s. We've been restoring that for the last decade. And we're at 7,000 feet in the shade. Average temperature is 72. It's pretty sweet, man. And the reality is Morongo Basin about 9 or 10 months a year is amazing. It's really just July and August that are kind of the hell months.
Yeah. I know. That's, everybody who... in my old life that knows I moved out here, that's all they ask about is like, oh my God, is it crazy hot? I'm like, you know what? When you're out here and the weather's good, it's magical. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
The evenings, it's just crazy.
From spending time inside of the national park, there's this handful of really special days that happen maybe 30 times a year where you can be in the sun or the shade and it doesn't matter. And those are just the special days. And we get about 30 of those a year that are just incredible.
Yeah. So do you have how many other guides work for you at the service? And
oh man, it's been quite a few years at this juncture, but we employ regularly about 12 people, including a full-time office manager. Mm-hmm. I've probably trained ballpark 40% of the guides that work inside of Joshua National Park. I'm definitely, I used to be the young guy, and all of a sudden now I'm one of the old guys.
Yeah.
And there was a transition of old guys before I got here that mentored me. And I'm really kind of the bridge between that old school climbing Joshua Tree community and the new school climbing community. I'm 47, so average guide age in Joshua Tree is probably like late 20s to mid 30s or something. So I'm that 10 or 15 year age gap in between the modern hotshot guides.
Gotcha. I see.
Yeah.
Climbing, it's such a weird thing for me because I've never really done any climbing.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of indoor climbing, I think, long time ago. But I have always been obsessed with climbing stories and some of the films. Like John Krakauer is one of my all-time favorite authors.
Totally.
And I love his books about climbing, even though multiple things I've never really climbed. I hate freezing cold, so when I read one of his books, and they're in these cold climates, I'm like, I know I would hate it, but there's like this romanticism and allure to it that at the same time just sounds so amazing. Have you had some incredible climbing experiences?
Absolutely, man. I have both climbed and guided on I don't even know, 3 or 4 continents, quite a bit all around the world. And for me, there's kind of sort of 2 main different sort of genres of climbing that people go into. One is for the pure athleticism of it, and I'm not that guy, man. I love the adventure portion of the climbing. So to me, every year I go on some sort of like year-long international expedition, vacation, adventure somewhere, and climbing is the medium for me to explore different landscapes. In the past year, my wife and I spent a month in Belize, both caving and climbing, and then 6 months before that, we spent a month in Scotland, climbing off the sea cliffs of northern Scotland, and that was incredible, man.
Wow.
Whiskey and climbing for a month straight. It was spectacular. It's it's just the adventure, the spirit, being out where most people don't go.
Yeah.
You even think about like a popular climb in Joshua Tree that like has a ton of traffic on it. In whatever 70 years, there's probably only been a couple 100,000 people that have touched that thing. I mean, how many places have you been in your life where only a couple 100,000 people have touched something? Like that's a pretty rare thing. And if you get into the even more like out there stuff that I'm into, occasionally I get to touch stuff that no other human has ever touched before. And we call that first ascent in our world, but that shit's super fun, man.
Yeah, that's got to be really incredible. I used to experience some of that when I was really into scuba diving for many, many years.
Oh, sweet.
Go to
that stuff's amazing.
I'd be in Roatan or, somewhere like that. And
yeah.
just seeing things underwater that I'm like, there's not that many people have seen this.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. And you feel privileged in a way that you're getting to experience that. On the same token, you kind of wish more people could see it to maybe appreciate those things differently. Like the underwater world, it's like there's a whole economy and a whole city practically under the ocean that 99% of the people walking the face of the earth every day have no idea it's going on, or ever think about that, there's manta rays with 20-foot wingspans just cruising around under that water that maybe you took a little boat out on or something like that. Like they just don't even experience it. And I wonder, I feel like anytime you can get more people, out into that kind of environment, whether it's in the water or, they make it up that first climb or something like that, to appreciate those things. And if more people could appreciate those things, maybe we'd have be in a better position from a conservation standpoint and the climate and those kind of things.
Maybe they would vote for the environment a little more.
Right.
Yeah, the last 10 years we talk about, this exponential growth here in Joshua Tree. I mean, there's 3 million annual visitors to the park. When I got here 24 years ago, it was like 400,000 or something. So exponential growth. That being said, if you want people to vote environmentally, they need to recreate in the outdoors. They need to have a personal connection to those landscapes, whether it be the Mojave Desert or the underwater scuba diving environment that you're talking about. So as long as those people can be, either self-regulated or guided in an environmentally low-impact way, I'm all for the tourism here in Joshua Tree. It's super good for the economy, and hopefully it helps people, vote on those environmental issues that are really near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, that was kind of one. The next thing I was going to ask you about is just, kind of where you're at, and you've kind of already said, you're very pro tourism. There's always that juncture of economic development versus conservation, and there's this plus and minus, the good, the bad, and the ugly of both of those things. And be interesting as somebody who's been here when there was nothing out here and nobody was coming out here to where it is now. What do you see as those issues? What are the things that you feel not only just residents and the public, but how does government need to be involved in maintaining the balance of those things for years to come?
It's such a complicated can of worms.
Yeah.
I mean, such a complicated can of worms. 20 plus years ago when I got here, there was a couple hundred of us, locals in the hip sort of scene here. None of us had any money, man. we were so broke. It was like we were essentially starving to death out here, living on PB&Js. And now I see all my friends at the sushi restaurant all the time, right? So it's really nice to see just that economic impact on our community. The flip side of that coin is and I'm not anti-Airbnb, but it's definitely way out of control. It's insane, man. I mean, house prices, availability of rentals, that shit's crazy. And the double-edged sword is that probably 40 or 50% of my clientele are staying in Airbnb. So I'm not against it, but I think if I sort of step back and look at that 24-year window, I think, and I always say Josh Tree, I apologize for that. It's really the Morongo Basin of this juncture. Just back in the day, Josh Tree was the core. I'm actually really impressed with what's going on in 29 and what's going up there in Flamingo Heights.
Yeah.
That shit's super cool. But back in the day, we were all hungry. But we were a subsistence economy who was just psyched to be here and having a blast. And frankly, we had a lot of free time and it was killer. And I don't have that much more free time anymore, at least during the season. At this juncture, we've become an economic opportunity, and that's the part of the growth that I struggle with. There is a number of individuals, businesses, corporations that are profiting off of Joshua Tree in the greater Morongo Basin that are not contributing culturally or economically to our community on a daily basis. And that's the shit that pisses me off. Like, man, if you live here and you run an Airbnb that's an extra cabin in your backyard or something, or your mother-in-law's suite or whatever, that's rad. If you are a business from Chicago who owns 50 houses here on Airbnb, that's the fucked up part, man.
That's a problem.
That's a real problem. So
that's a problem nationally.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And that's something, that it seems like a no-brainer to me, right? And I remember it was a few years ago, and I didn't know this, but like Zillow, the real estate company that appraises houses, and you go to their website, their actual business and profit model was buying and selling houses.
Yeah.
And they were coming in, overpaying.
Yep.
So then that was raising the prices for, the average consumer that wanted to live in a home, and then just holding that stuff to flip it. And, I see just driving around, like you mentioned in 29, it's conflicting. I have a decent size lot. I'm like, I should put an ADU in the backyard. I can totally do it. It'd be great financially for me.
I'd send you guests, man.
Right. Like I know how to do marketing. I'll just work that thing and it'll be great. But then I drive around my neighborhood and I'm looking at houses that I looked at to live in that I didn't buy, that all have the placard that they're 24 hour, that they're short-term rentals.
Totally.
They're all over the place.
It's nuts.
Why the government doesn't say, okay, there's a corporation, you can't just buy up houses everywhere.
Totally.
You could do a couple, or there's got to be some rules, and there doesn't seem to be any rules.
It's that whole uneven playing field. This is late-stage capitalism is really what we're talking about. And I don't need to go off the deep end on that, because I could go pretty far down that rabbit hole. But I'm a capitalist. I'm third-generation American small business owner.
Right,
I'm
me too.
all for it, but it's late stage at this juncture. It's fucked up.
Right. I'm in that same mindset where it's like, no, I own a real small, like when people are like, good for small businesses. And I'm like, well, that business does like $2 billion and has 100 employees, just because they're categorized the right way to be a small business. I'm like legit small business, under $1 million, 15 employees, but I want to make more money. Everybody wants to do better, but there just seems to be, it's so out of balance.
Totally. And to just talk about the local economy here a little bit, from my perspective, from a Cliffhanger Guides perspective, my wife and I, we've put in 13 years, we've put well over $1 million into local salaries with a livable wage. Like my lowest employee at the apprentice level is making $20 an hour, and my master guides are making somewhere around $40 an hour. So we are paying a livable wage, and that part is awesome, because 99 to 2010, dude, nobody was making that kind of money here, man.
Right.
So again, that double-edged sword, So I don't know. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. I feel like Joshua Tree is essentially healthy right now, with the exception of a little bit of overdoing it on the Airbnb side of things.
Wait, tell me that again.
So that big long trailer over there, that's a 1956 Spartan Imperial Mansion. That's our office. It's converted to like a commercial kitchen and 3 or 4 cubicle spaces. And it's called the Death Star. If you want to take over the world, you got to have a Death Star.
Nice.
So we used to get a bunch, because we're kind of a main thoroughfare to we used to get dudes on dirt bikes and quads and side-by-sides, all that shit, just rallying through here. I've ridden dirt bikes my whole life. I'm not anti-dirt bike, but when you come through my yard at 50, we got a problem.
Right.
So I would chase them down, and my wife thought I was going to die, and it was all crazy. And in the beginning of that welding area, we were like, and I hate no trespassing signs. I want people to come through here, but I just want them to be cool when they're coming through. So in that welding area, we were like, dude, what if we just made a big-ass, scary-ass fence? So this is called the zombie apocalypse fence. And dude, I've watched cops pull up to this fence and flip a Yui because they don't want to come through here, man. It is unbelievably effective. Yeah, twice I've seen cops come up to this and flip a Yui. It's rad. Flu quarantine. We put that up during COVID.
I see all the bullet-ridden.
Yeah, totally, man.
These are amazing. I love the
shot at propane tanks.
The tanks like that are great.
Totally. I love that one. End restricted zone. And then on the other side it says, begin restricted zone. My friend Sarah Schneider made this.
Oh yeah.
That's a really cool spot piece. I dig that one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Motorcycle chain.
Totally. Yeah, I'm telling you, 20 years ago, this kind of rusty metal, and I haven't paid for hardly any of this rusty metal, dude. We just harvested it out of the desert, man.
Sure.
Well, I paid for that weird sculpture because it was just so inappropriate that I had to buy it. It's so fucked up. Totally.
That is a great fire pit.
Yeah. This is an old washing machine that my friend Carl Rice pulled out of the lake bed, hammered it flat. Used one of those green tea stakes on the back to get it to stand up straight, and just a beautiful piece, man. And imagine the dollar value of the bullets that people shot through this shit, man. This is the backyard of the Sethspool. Basically from the top of that ridge, the other side of the top of that ridge, to all the way over to that big mountain over there, Bunker Hill, is owned by friends of mine. We are the Bunker Hillbilly family.
Beautiful out here.
Yeah. This thing's dope.
Oh my God. Look at this. Rad.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a friend of mine ripped about, I don't know what it was, a couple thousand square feet of this bamboo hardwood out of his house because his wife didn't like the color. And I was like, dude, we'll use that. So we built this thing all out of salvaged half-inch bamboo. Maybe it's even 3/4, 5/8. It's thick shit. And this is called the Honey Bucket.
Beautiful. So in addition to the Cliffhanger Guide service, you also do like promotional events and things like that. Tell us a little bit of that background and what you got going on there.
Yeah, man. So my house, the Sethspool, is kind of the melting pot between the climbing community and the arts community of the Morongo Basin. And for whatever reason, both those communities are kind of live in their own little social bubbles. And we're kind of that melting pot, the bridge of that thing. So, you know, it started off in 2002, my first business in town here, Positive Resoles. We threw a grand opening party out here. And for 20 years, we kind of been throwing like these sort of underground spring Joshua Tree parties. And then when COVID hit and all of us were just economically screwed, I'm scrambling what to do. We did a free drive-in slideshow in downtown Joshua. Really iconic, famous climber, Lynn Hill came out. Dude, 100 cars showed up for that thing, and which is for free for my community. And I was just like, whoa, 100 cars. And I was like, dude, I got to figure out how to monetize this. Like, I got no money right now. I got no work for my team. Like, I need to figure out how to monetize this. So super close friends with the Joshua Tree Music Festival community, Barnett. Gave Barnett a call and said, hey, man, I got this concept I want to do. I know you can't do shows right now. I can't run my business. Do you want to go like on this weird detour and see what we can do with a drive-in theater company? And it totally took off. So somewhere right around 2020, started going quite a bit more mainstream with my events. Last spring, I produced the First World Solutions fundraiser to support First World up on Park Boulevard. We organically raised $56,000. And then some like super rich anonymous Annenberg type family that I don't even know matched us dollar for dollar, doubling that nut, man, insane. So, you know, I've been guiding forever. Really running a good party is just really just guiding a large group of people through an experience.
Yeah.
My wife grew up in a theater company. One of my best friends is a retired Hollywood stuntman. My other neighbor over here is like the best MacGyver you've ever met. So, you know, you put a theater background, a stuntman, a MacGyver, and a wingnut like me together, and we're pretty capable of creating some pretty interesting cultural immersion theatrical experiences.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The next up is end of October, the 27th, 28th of October. We're going to be hosting the Dark Carnival up at Giant Rock Meeting Room. Friday night's going to be Metal Night. There's a couple different bands playing. Mother and Sunsane Martyrs, I believe is the opening act's name. And then on Saturday night, I got Paul Chesney, old school High Desert Classic. And then I got two of my very favorite DJs coming on after him. So Saturday be a dance party. And then outside of the music venue, we're going to have a bunch of carnival games, man. It's the Dark Carnival. We're kind of ripping off that whole Tijuana Carney. We got a Mezcal sponsor. We're setting up this booth with glass bottles, and you buy tickets for rocks, and you throw rocks at the glass bottles. And if you break the glass bottles, we give you free shots of Mezcal, dude. Yeah, so thank you, Ricia, for hooking us up with that. I really, really appreciate it. I don't know, man. I really love doing events. It honestly gets me high at this juncture. I love that sort of puppet mastering people's experiences, and trying to make things feel spontaneous, but they're actually highly choreographed on the back end. And really looking forward to hosting more events in the Morongo Basin for sure.
Very, very cool. you were saying how you bring these people together, somebody from a film background and a promotional background, and your neighbor's a good MacGyver. That is one thing I've really noticed out here is just like there's just this wide background of people. Like you kind of can go from like one house to the next. It's this wide mix of people. One guy could be a filmmaker, the next guy's an artist, the next person owns a climbing business. It's this really wide mixture of people. But it's really creative, amazingly creative community.
Amazingly creative. Earlier we started talking about sort of the growth of this community, and the last 10 years have been nuts. Obviously, COVID just like went on a serious bell curve. And me and a bunch of old schoolers, we're definitely getting a little overwhelmed because I can't go to town and get a cup of coffee because there's a line out the damn door. I got to say, as we come out in a post-COVID world and we're back socializing again, the amount of amazingly talented people I'm meeting is off the charts, man.
Right.
I've lived in tourism towns and economies my whole life. And I've never seen a town like Joshua. Oh, look at my neighborhood-friendly Roadrunner, dude.
Oh, cool.
What up, dude? Good to see ya. Yeah, I wonder if we can get that for about 3 weeks now. He's super cool.
Very cool.
Comes over and hangs out.
Amazing.
I'm hoping my dog doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
The community growth in this town is nuts. That being said, the talent per capita is it's mind-blowing. And as I'm doing these different more public events and getting involved with the bigger community of the Morongo Basin, I'm getting connected to some unbelievable people. The First World Solutions thing, I put up a post online, hey, I'm looking for buskers. I need entertainment for this gig. This dude called me Clark Hunter. He's amazing.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'm doing the First World Solution. I put up this post on Instagram looking for buskers. And he goes, hey man, I'm not a busker, but I've been a Hollywood set designer my whole life. If you can dream it, I can build it.
Right.
What do you want me to build? And, and he goes, I love
sling blade.
Yeah, totally. So he built me a blade box, man, like a box where I get in and people shove swords through me. And then I tried to pay the dude for it. And even just for materials, he wouldn't take a dime from me, man. Yeah. So cool. So there's so many amazing people getting hooked up with you, doing this podcast. Mike and their whole crew down there in 29 Palms, incredible. Linus and the La Copines girls, man, like it's just amazing what's going on here from a talent perspective.
Yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, when looking around your property here, there's a lot of sculptures and stuff. Is that something you or your wife do, or have you gotten that stuff from other artists?
Yeah, man. So the view coming off of my driveway is off of my front yard is to sun. And kind of our long-standing joke is, rednecks love driving around the desert, drinking beer and shooting shit. I like driving around the desert, drinking beer and picking up the shit that people shot. So, for years and years, I just collected this really cool shot-up metal out of the desert. And it used to be endless, man, like crazy 40s and 50s cars and just incredible, like really cool vintage shot-up metal, which is incredible patina. And, being right next to the lake bed, I go over there every couple of weeks and pick stuff up. So probably about, 10, 12 years ago, for years I'd been collecting that stuff, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And about 10, 12 years ago, my wife bought me a welder, and I was like, holy shit, I can stick this together.
Okay, cool.
And that's kind of when the sculpture era of the Sethspool happened. And there's a loose group of us, Carl Rice, Guy Green, my wife Sabra, myself, and a couple others that call ourselves the Tetanus Collective. We did one art show in town, completely sold out, which was rad. It felt like really heartwarming that people dug our stuff. That being said, I sold a bunch of sculptures that'll never be in my yard. I'm never doing another art show. I'm the artist that's like a hoarder, man, and I want my yard to be a sculpture garden.
Very cool.
I really enjoy making it. But the $400 I sold that piece for is not going to change my life in any significant way. Fuck it, I'm keeping it.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, Seth, thank you so much for sitting down with me and inviting me over to your place here. And for those of you who might be just listening to the audio podcast, you can go over to the new Highway 62 podcast YouTube channel. So you can see a video version of this, and there'll be extended footage. Going to get some shots here around the property and things like that here in a minute. But thanks so much. Anybody coming to town who's always thought maybe that climbing looked so cool, but you were afraid to do it, be sure to hit up Cliffhanger Guide Services. And Seth assures me he'll get, I think you told me you could get me, my aging overweight self and my drum set to the top of a mountain, no problem.
Not a problem. not a problem. And in fact, we have not had a single accident since we took that class on YouTube. So you're in good hands, brother.
Awesome. Thanks again, Seth. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.